I watched the first 3 episodes of Tonikawa Over the Moon for You Season 2, and it certainly was more Tonikawa. I recall Season 1 starting with an arrogant, hateable protagonist who I was excited to see get beaten into the dirt, Charlotte style. But he unfortunately gets that interesting personality knocked out of him by a truck, and a few contrived scenarios later, he's married to a woman he doesn't know, and still approaches this relationship like a high schooler with a crush. After dealing with boring slugs like Angel Next Door and Kubo-san, I expected that my patience for do-nothing, go-nowhere shows like this had completely run dry. But amazingly, Tonikawa Season 2 drew me in just fine. That interests me. Why is it that a scene where Kubo bullies Shiraishi gets less emotional response from me than a scene where Nasa watches his wife Tsukasa get emotionally invested in a movie? What's this, Joe? A scene where our protagonist watches the female lead? Since when do you give that a pass? Well, I guess since I already know their characters and it doesn't happen in every other scene. But pump the brakes. I'm not saying that the cinema scene is some sort of masterful stroke of storytelling. Its quality is similar to the quality of the rest of the first 3 episodes. It's fine. Not great, not terrible, just a middling plane of general acceptability. There are moments where the quality slips. Most scenes involving Aya are nowhere near as funny as they think they are. And the whole my cousin and his friends look like Yakuza bit got old pretty fast. But then there's a lot to like too. I like the scene where Nasa learns how expensive and complicated weddings can be. The confidence with which he approaches the subject contrasts nicely against the dumbfounded revelation when he actually does the slightest bit of research. I like that the end of this particular story is Tsukasa deciding not to get swept up in wedding fever and just take their marriage at their own pace. I like the scene where Nasa's old teacher visits. I'm always a sucker for teachers who learn from their students, and I like that they try to keep Nasa's old arrogant self in the canon when he considers that he may have been a tough student for his teachers. Episode 3 unfortunately gets a bit weird. For starters, I can't help but escape the feeling that the writers took a trip to Disneyland and wanted to write it off on their taxes. It isn't just set dressing. The characters actively point out the faux Star Wars characters, and runtime is dedicated to showing off the Toy Story blaster and Haunted Mansion rides. The teacher from before is back with a male co-worker on a date, and she may very well be the key to why this show keeps me hooked better than other similar stories. Whenever the episode is focused on Nasa and Tsukasa, or even Chitose and her maids, I was at my usual baseline enjoyment level. But when it switched to the teacher and her date, boredom quickly followed. Maybe it is as simple as the show drew me in with a decent enough mystery that I stuck around long enough to become accustomed to these characters. And as soon as they try to deviate and follow the escapades of a standard will they, won't they, I fall right off because I'm getting sick of that generic fluff. The culmination of this date, which I am about to spoil, is a little all over the place. On one hand, saying you feel safe with someone is actually a thing that real people say when in the early stages of dating, so that was a neat detail. On the other hand, what is it with this show and jumping straight to marriage? It was strange enough that Nasa and Tsukasa got married before they even knew each other, but why does this teacher, who just last episode had no interest in even attending this date, suddenly decide she wants to marry this man? Is the show trying to start a new trend of get married now, ask questions later? I can appreciate a story that starts with a couple already together, but if the relationship is still new, it just shifts from a will they, won't they, to a when will they. And that isn't better. All I have left to say is a bunch of small stuff. Nasa failing to put together a good spread from the buffet is cute because it reminds us that he isn't a perfect guy. Toast is indeed a cute name for a cat, and I will fight you. Having an instrumental rendition of the first season's ED as part of the OST is a stroke of brilliance because Tsukito Hoshizora is my favourite ED track of all time. But that's really it. As I stated before, the show doesn't have much to talk about. No breathtaking heights of brilliance nor depressing troughs of garbage. The whole show is just fine. If you liked season 1, you'll probably like this too. If you didn't, this season probably won't change your mind. I'll keep watching it because Lord knows there isn't a lot of anime I'm interested in continuing right now, but it's probably not something I'll think about after I'm done with it. At least until it's time to write about it for the end of year roundup. I can't even do that thing where I make a quick list of the positive and negative traits for the purpose of giving it a rating. It's got some slightly good bits, some slightly baffling bits, and a whole lot of just fine. From ice cold to red hot, I give Tonikawa Over the Moon for You Season 2 a rating of lukewarm. Yeah. I'd like to thank my patrons: Orion Tran, Data52, Jamman5, Pixcalibur, Tyler Bennett, Tamka, Jeremy Bashik, Fireclaw, Christopher Wang, Luke Stewart, Swiss Cage, Gerald, John Lowe, Dustin Rubin, The Blue Crystal 770, and Garen. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.